Rob, tell us about your record store.
We've been in business for like 3 years now, and I've always wanted to own a record store. One of my first jobs, like when I was a kid, was working at a record store in Detroit as a teenager. So I had lost my job at the state. I used to be a corrections officer, and they actually shut down the prison that I worked at. And I was kind of like looking for something to do. I said, well, I'll make a stab at it. I had thousands and thousands of records at my house, and I actually opened my first record store with my own personal collection. And we had that out on the coast. Did that for a couple of years, and it was okay. We just, we didn't see a huge profit, kind of just squeaking by. And then I had the idea to open a hybrid store, the coffee shop, record store idea, because so many people would come in and hang out, and look through all the records, ask me to play something or whatever, and then they would just leave and oh, that was nice, and take off. And I'm like, hey, you didn't find anything you liked? They're like, no, we don't even collect records. We just thought it was cool, the nostalgia of it. And then they'd leave. And I told my wife, I was like, man, if they want to hang out, if we could at least sell them a coffee or something, then maybe we can make a few bucks off them before they leave. And so we opened up this store, and the concept blew up. And we pay the bills on coffee alone.
Why would you say an independent record store is so important to a community?
When you don't have an independent record store in a town, you lose a place, a meeting place where people, young and old, all types of people. I don't want to just say just young people, but of all ethnicities, of all just cultures, sexual orientations, all this stuff. Everyone kind of comes together and they have this shared experience there. They have a visceral experience. And if you're just sitting online, buying your records from Amazon or something like that, you don't get that. You're not being turned on to new music. You're not rubbing shoulders with someone in the racks next to you and they're looking at something, and then you get to strike a conversation and this person's suggesting that to you, or maybe the shop owner suggesting something that you've never heard of before. So you kind of lose that, you're not turned on to new music, to new ideas and that sort of thing. And at the same time, that adds to a sense of community. So I think it's not just independent record stores per se, where you lose that sense of culture or community if you don't have it, but it's the independent bookstores, it's the small cafes, it's a small meat market. When something like Walmart comes in and those things go away, you lose that sense of community in general. When an FYE comes in and the small record stores come in, people go to Walmart, people go to these other big box retailers, they don't talk to each other, they're not hanging out, they don't know their salesperson by name unless they're wearing a name tag, and so they're losing a whole different experience. That sense of community is just gone.
What's your favorite part about owning an independent record store?
Everything about it, man. I can say I don't have to answer to anyone, but I have to answer to my customers. And ultimately, I have to, answer to my family. I got to feed my kids. I got to feed my wife, man. And so it's stressful and nerve-wracking and paying bills but at the same time, it's I'm doing something. I'm being part of the community. That's really the American dream, right? Not going to other countries and looking for oil, man, but opening your own business, being your own boss, having an opportunity. That's part of the land of opportunity, man. That's why people come here, is to be able to have something, create something. That's what I'm doing, And now we're getting ready to open just a big, giant one of these hybrid stores. Behind us, just one block over, but it's 3 times as big. Full-size record selection, full-size coffee shop with a kitchen. We'll be doing food and all that.
As far as the vinyl side of your business, are you seeing more young people getting into the vinyl format?
Yeah, I see more young people getting into the vinyl format. I think the rate at which that's growing with young people is sort of stabilized because they all kind of know about it now and they've all kind of got hip to that. I think the rate of increase of like the middle-aged crowd and older, that's where we're seeing the increase again. You know, I think a lot of these kids are finding out or a lot of these adults are finding out from their teenage kids that records are cool again, and they've forgotten that, like the sound quality and the experience you can have with it. So they're starting to dust off their old records again and putting them back on their turntables, and you know, that's I think where the resurgence is at. And I think long after, because let's face it, I mean the rate at which the popularity of records is growing seems to be like exponential year by year. And like any other bubble, it's gonna pop. You know, I mean, there's gonna be a point where this fad for young people, it's gonna go away. Eventually all the hipsters are gonna shave their beards off and start wearing loose-fitting jeans again. All that stuff's gonna go, and the real collectors, we're gonna be there. And I think the people who are going to kind of continue to carry that torch, and not to say that the young people won't, but I think a lot of those people are going to kind of back off, and they'll buy back all their records when they're ready to sell their collections. Hopefully they don't scratch them up too much. But I think a lot of those people in their like later 20s and in their 30s, starting to have kids, they want to get home at the end of the day and have some wine and put some records on. That's what's going to continue. That's what's going to keep it kind of like plateauing after that bubble bursts.
What are some things that labels and distributors could do to make your sales better, your lives easier as business owners? What are some things they could do to help your sales?
Make the giant companies, make the big box retailers play by the rules. You know, I mean, if there's a suggested retail price, limit them to maybe keeping it to the best sale they can do is like 10% under. Like, you have to give us the breathing room. You know, make them also buy at the same price we have to buy, regardless of the rate.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure they're selling for at least close to that suggested price. Because if not, it's unsustainable. You know,
Okay.
Easier said than done, I'm sure.
Sure. One question I always like to ask owners, if someone came into your shop and they said, it's my dream to always open a record store, I'm opening a record store in Connecticut somewhere, they said, give me a couple pieces of advice. What is the number one piece of advice you'd give them?
We actually get that question quite often.
Yeah. It's a combination of all the things I've been talking about. If you've just gotten into vinyl, we'll call it vinyl, if you've just gotten into records in the last few years, you're not ready to open a record store. Man, what else? There's so much. Just like I said, you know, before, is marketing and knowing sales and knowing how to sell yourself, knowing your product, you know, knowing your community, knowing the demand there is for out there. And then, you know, you hear it in business all the time. Location, 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 location. Don't have a good location? You better have, you know, live missiles and nude dancing girls or something, because no one's going to come to your shop, you know?
I always tell them to be creative. Be creative. Like what Rob said, records are our main staple, but I mean, the coffee is really kind of like our bread and butter. I tell them to be creative and know their demographics, you know, maybe not just a record store, maybe something more to it, you know, to push those record sales.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot of people who come here just to have coffee and hang out in a community space.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
That's the really cool part. We've had people come in to get coffee, they keep coming back, and they've never had an inkling to collect records.
Yeah.
And now some of our biggest buyers for collectors. They've been around it so much, they hear us playing records, and then they catch that fever. We've had people come in for a coffee, first time they've ever been in, wander in to have a cup of coffee, never collected records, walked out buying a turntable and a few records that day. So
that's the way it's all what it's all about, right?
Yeah, man.
Some people that one of our biggest vendors is an example of this, and he really never understood the sound quality until he came in and had coffee here and noticed that we were actually, instead of playing a digital format of music, we were playing the records. And all of the records in our racks, we take requests. If you want to hear it, we'll open it up and play it. And just like Rob said, just the sound quality from hearing that, and now almost every day when he comes in for coffee, he walks out with a new selection of records.
And creating collectors, that's what it's about.
Yeah, man. Yeah.